She wanna meet me at a Ritz-Carlton. She looking pretty, she looking gorgeous.
Here we go.
Love, but we heartless. She want ass shots.
Here we go.
Back of the Maybach.
All right.
Trying to get saved, yeah. Who am I to hate, yeah? Just wanna get paid. Get my whole bread.
Sorry, Jesus.
When I flow, can't be tripping off that money, baby, let a nigga go. Gotta get used to this type of service, traveling through the back door. I just put a bitch on, bought another nigga hoe.
I just put your bitch on another bitch and hit them both. All of a sudden, he a friend when I send that bitch a toast. When she want attention, she disguise it as a post. I forgot to mention, she was mine before she yours. She gon' need the Gucci like she cake.
Come on, bro. Come on. Let's get started. Come on. Come on. Hold on, hold on. I gotta run it back. Hold on.
She said she leaving her boyfriend.
I gotta run it back. Alright, let's go.
Meet me at a Ritz-Carlton. She looking pretty, she looking
Alright, we're gonna win this game, hopefully.
We making love, but we heartless.
Right.
She want ass shots.
I think we'll win. First game today, let's go. Let's go. Let's play, brothers. Let's play.
Trying to get saved, yeah. Who am I to hate, yeah? Just wanna get paid. Get my whole bread.
I do gravity above the stars, I'm on the Mars when I flow. Can't be tripping off that money, baby, let a nigga go. Gotta get used to this type of service, traveling through the back door. I just put a bitch on, bought another nigga hoe.
I just put your bitch on another bitch and hit them both. All of a sudden, he a friend when I send that bitch a toast. When she want attention, she disguise it as a post. I forgot to mention, she was mine before she yours. She gon' need Gucci like she cake. All we do is fuck, we don't go on dates. I know some young thug goes in LA. She just wanna pop a pill and go to space.
I do gravity above the stars, I'm on the Mars when I flow. Can't be tripping off that money, baby, let a nigga go. Gotta get used to this type of service, traveling through the back door. I just put a bitch on, bought another nigga hoe.
When you bring your thought friends, you let everybody know. When you sing to not friends, you let everybody go. Baby girl, hop in, we going everywhere but broke. Like we always do with this.
She gon' get the Gucci for promote. Knock that thing loose,
It's probably the only good song off Vultures 2. But it's a really good
I'm
one.
in all Gucci, it ain't my fault.
She gon' eat the Gucci for promotion. Knock that thing loosely, now she broke. I just keep the cookie at the door. I'm in all Gucci, it ain't my fault.
She said she leaving her boyfriend. She wanna meet me at a Ritz-Carlton.
She looking pretty, she looking gorgeous. We making love, but we heartless. Like we always do, like we always do, like we always do it this time. Like we always do.
I missed. It's over.
Like
My
we
career's
always
over.
do it this. Like we always, like we always do it this.
That was completely my fault. It's my thumb's fault. I guess it's my brain's fault because the brain tells the thumb what to do, right? So I guess it is my fault. Sort of a roundabout way.
Watch, got it, you need that, I got it.
Oh, I missed again. It's over. No, we're not. No! It's not over yet. Watch this.
I know you don't like me, you wanna fight me. You don't want no problems at your party, don't invite me. I don't worry about you niggas, please stop talking about me. Always talking about me cause you looking for the clout.
You son of a gun. And I'm gonna kill myself. Just end it. Oh. I don't think I can play again. I don't think it's gonna let me because I think I left.
Nah, I still don't give a fuck.
Yeah, they banned me from matchmaking.
Nigga that I never wanna be like. You the type of bitch that will never get a reply. High hater, bye hater.
So Looks like we're switching to Minecraft a little early tonight, right? Tonight. Couldn't be further from the nighttime. Oh. Well, that's just sad, right? I was just really mad because I viewed it as unfairly targeted. But unfortunately that happens, I guess. Why is the thumbnail just black? Do we know this? Do we know why? Alright. Let's go. Let's go. Hey. They calling me hot sauce. Whoa. Tuesday morning, right? Tuesdays, am I right? Right. I wonder if, whoa. No. Alright, we're done with the game. We're done with this game anyways. I think it's a really bad game, and I think it's really unfun. I think they should just give up. I think they should delete it. And I think that they should stop making that pop up whenever I close out of the game. It's okay. It's okay. Just don't do it anymore, alright? Just don't do that. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, Al-Baghdadi, it's okay. Alright. Hold up. Let me see. I'm trying to think. Alright, let's get into Minecraft. Let's just do it. Right? I'm creating Obunga. That means nothing to anyone. But soon you will understand what it means. Alright, what are we doing today? What are we doing today? I don't know what I'm building. I don't know. I have no idea. No plans. This is the police station. Me, Badger. Well, me, Eli, and someone. I don't know who it was. It was someone random. I don't know. We all did the interior of this, and that random person, I don't know what he goes by nowadays. He created this invention, and it's like you can't see from the other side. It's interrogation room, right? But on this side you can see in there. It's like the mirrors, right? So I think this is a whiteboard or a projector. I think it's a projector, mainly from this contraption right here. Did I do these bathrooms? I did, okay. So yeah, that's basically, that's all I have to say about that. I made this coffee machine. It was really annoying trying to make a coffee machine. It's a little big, but at least it kind of looks like a coffee machine, so. A water cooler. Get in here. Well, that sucks, right? Okay, sorry, I'm just thinking about what to build, right? We'll figure it out. Don't worry. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Okay. So. Here's what we do. Alright, we're gonna Alfonso, the bowler, Alfonso the bowler. Okay, we're just going with it, you know. We're just seeing what happens, right? So there we go. I don't have any. Let's see, who looks like a bowler? That doesn't look like a bowler to me. That looks like a bowler. That works. So now we're gonna leave. Okay. We have to calm down for a second. We have to relax. Okay. Let's see what to build. Okay. Hold on. I need music, but I can't have lyrics because I can't focus. Okay. Alright, we gotta take it back. Okay, alright. Let's relax. Okay. What do we need? Let's go to the Bay Ridge. Let's figure this out. Okay, no interior for this yet. Got the parking spaces. Got this place. Okay. Now what? Polish. A Polish library. Doesn't make any sense. You know, What about a music? What about a music shop? You know, right? We need music, right? Like this. All right. Let's build a music shop, right? Okay. Well, if only if only I had Obunga. That would be great if I had Obunga, but we don't. So. Okay. Now we choose which one we want, or which ones we want. Boom. Alright, now we have to stop there. Okay, okay, okay. Now we've got it. Just gotta experiment until we get the thing, you know? No. Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at this. Hold on, hold on. Okay. It's not gonna work though. I'll tell you why. Well, I won't tell you why, but you're gonna have to figure out why, alright? Because it's too white. That's why. We could do stone again. They kind of match. Let's see. But it's still not going to work. No, 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 no. It can work. Just gotta stick with it, alright? Let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. So sorry. Okay, I have to build in complete silence. I have to do it. I can't focus when there's music, I've realized. Unless, no. Okay, so boom, 3, 3. It's kind of like a square. This is great. This is turning out great so far. We just gotta stick with it, right? Absolutely not. Okay. See, I don't want to make it look exactly like this build, which it doesn't, but it kind of does, if we're being completely honest with ourselves right now. So we have to set it apart. Hmm. Marty Banks. Okay. It's a little different, And then... Okay, so this has the stone like that. But we don't want that. We want... something different, right? How's this go? Too similar. Well, too, even. See, now we're talking. By the way, this doesn't have to be a music shop. I just said that so that I could start building. This can literally be anything because it literally looks like it could be anything. So, could make this a zoo. I don't know about that one, but we could make this Alvin's Chipmunk Emporium. We were talking about that the other day. I have to come up with some sort of thingy here. Okay. Okay. Now, I don't know if I want to use sandstone, but we're gonna see. Welcome back to Talk 2. I'm a little behind on my Talk 2. I haven't been watching the past few weeks. It's really something. You know, something's wrong. Something's bad. It's almost like we need Obunga to function, right? Okay. Alright. We're not restarting. We're just scrapping everything and redoing it. Okay, you're flying over. You know what? If it looks a little bit the same, it's kind of the point, right? They're all supposed to kind of look the same here. Poo-poo. Sorry. Okay, this is the max. It can't go any further back than this, so let's just make it go to there. Oh my god, I hate apples. You have to send the message. You have to do it. You have to do it. When I click the button, you have to. Oh my god. It started recording a voice memo. You have to stop doing that. Okay. See, this one has brown. Hold on. What's it called? Terror. This isn't it. Oh no. I think I was making a mistake there, I'm gonna be honest. Okay. What are we building and what do we want? We want light blue. We want orang. We want probably not. No, because we already used that. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, now which one screams, See, that's the problem. We don't know what we're building. You know what? I'll be back. Alright, I think I injured myself in the war. I'm so sorry. Alright, we have to calm down here. Let's think. Hold on. Instead of thinking. Instead of thinking. I have an idea. Okay. Instead of thinking, we are going to have ChatGPT do the thinking for me, alright? Oh wow, this is a long response right here. Kinda just wanted a list, but okay. I kinda just wanted a list. Alright, we're gonna be here for a minute, guys. I should have told it that I didn't want this much. Alright, we're gonna be here for a minute. Alright, let's get ready. Let's see.
Here are 10 ideas for
Jesus,
commercial
that's
businesses
loud.
that
I'm
would
so
fit well
sorry.
into an old school downtown area in your Minecraft
I'm
city.
so sorry.
1. Classic diner. A retro-styled diner with checkered
Okay.
floors, bar stools, a jukebox, and a small parking lot out front. 2.
That can happen.
Mom and Pop General Store. A small, multi-purpose store selling groceries, tools, and home goods, complete
Okay.
with a display window
Maybe.
and vintage signage. 3. Antique shop. A
Ooh,
cozy
maybe.
shop filled with decorative furniture, old clocks, and random trinkets, with a collectibles sign above the door. 4. Bookstore and cafe. A 2-story building
Polish.
with bookshelves on the first floor, a reading area on the second, and a cozy cafe corner serving pastries and coffee.
Wait, that's kind of lit.
5. Tailor and hat shop. A stylish storefront
Hat
displaying
shop.
mannequins wearing suits and hats, with a sewing area visible inside. 6. Old-fashioned pharmacy. A corner drugstore with wooden
Rip and
shelves,
drug.
apothecary jars, and an ice cream soda fountain.
Yo.
7. Barber shop. A small shop with a red and white barber pole outside, leather chairs inside, and large mirrors on the walls.
Maybe.
8. Movie theater. A vintage
That's
theater with a
not gonna
marquee
happen.
sign, a box office at the front, and a small concession stand inside. 9. Hardware store. A brick building with tools, barrels, and building supplies outside, evoking
Okay.
a classic industrial vibe. 10. Flower shop. A colorful storefront
A little
with
bit
flower
too
pots
gay,
and
I'm
hanging
sorry.
baskets
But
on
it's okay.
display. Perfect for adding life and color to your downtown. Let
Nothing
me know
wrong
if
with
you
that.
want
Nothing
details
wrong
or
with that.
additional ideas for these businesses.
Just a little. I just don't know if I could be. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I have the capability to do that. Okay, so I think Polish bookstore cafe. That's what I was thinking. I like that idea, right? Or an antique shop. But I like the Polish because I already had that idea. It was kind of my idea technically, because I had it earlier. You can go back and check the tape, right? I think I said Polish library, but Polish bookstore, Polish library, whatever, the same thing. And cafe. That was a nice little twist. So maybe like a cafe and a bookstore, so you can get your crap and eat it too. You know, well, you don't want to eat. You wouldn't want to eat it, but. Okay. So now we have to have a color, right? So what do you think of when you think of Poland? Do you think of red and white? So none of these. So it's not gonna work. But I don't know if I want red and white either. Okay, let's get if it's gonna be 2 stories, let's figure that out right now. Okay, alright. Now, while we're planning this out, we gotta... This might be best. Okay. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
生活是笑话，别哭的听它，别在意更换，不了是理想，心要你哄它，一切会好的，一切都来吧，天地随你爽。你是那个阳光彩虹小白马，滴滴答滴滴答。
Right? Yo, cat, what's up? Kitty. Okay. No. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, this is the floor. This is the roof. Right? So that means this is the floor. We'd want to go one. We wouldn't want to put it into a bag. This is the roof. That seems about right. There we go. I don't think it is adding up right now, I'm gonna be honest. Something ain't adding up here. think anything's adding up right now. It's okay. Making this 2 floors might have been the greatest mistake I've ever made. Let's see. Okay, it's not too much taller. It's not good, right? But we can fix it. And if we can't, then I guess that's just the end, right? What the heck was that? What the heck? It's okay. See, it doesn't work because this has 2 layers to do it, but this is only 1 layer. So it's actually quite frustrating. Brody? 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 What's the dealio, Mielbert? I'm about to delete it. So we need to fix this fast before I delete it. Let me set a timer. Alexa, set a timer for 2 minutes. Okay, if I don't solve this within 2 minutes, it all gets deleted, and I end stream. So we have to solve this now. We're now in the I can't think of anything. I'm wasting time trying to think of something to say. So we can't be doing that. We're in the end game now. That's what I was trying to say. Okay. I don't know if this is solving anything. I think I'm wasting time. Actually, I know I'm wasting time. Actually, no, I don't. I don't know anything. We just need to figure out... Yeah, no. That's bad. Listen, if I want to fix this, I'm gonna need the full backing of the United States government, alright? And we're gonna have to break some laws. Okay, see? We set it back a lot. See, it's gonna screw over the alleyway that's supposed to be back here, but we can fix that later, right? But now, it's a lot longer, so it looks like it actually makes sense. Alright, we probably haven't got long. But I think we're pretty close to fixing it. Actually, I don't know if we solved the root issue here, which is that this flat wall doesn't really add up. If you can't make dollars, you can't make sense. Wait. I don't think that is an accurate statement. I'm really sorry. But unfortunately, sometimes we make inaccurate statements. Alexa, stop. 2 minutes are up. Let's see if we solved it. You know, I'm gonna say we did, but I don't know if we did. But I'm just gonna, because we might have. It's possible. We just have to figure out if we did or not. Because, you know, making it longer is basically all we did. And see, now this alleyway is just goes straight into there. But it can be the end, and then there can be like another. We'll fix it later. See, I said it. I'll say it again. We can fix anything later. Okay. You understand now. This. Now, can we do anything? We could do something, right? We could do this. So it gives some sort of depth, right? But it's not. It's not great, but it's good, maybe. See, that's a little better. This is not good. Sorry, I have a lower back injury, and every time I think it's solved, it hurts again. Boom. Some grooviness. And then we can add some ventilation system up the side, so that we'll have a ventilation system up the side. Okay. Now this is the easy part, right? We're gonna plot out the inside. So you come in. You're greeted with I guess the bookstore part. Should that be on the first or the second floor? Maybe bookstore on the first floor and then cafe on the second floor, so you can buy your book and then you can go read it. But why would you do that when you just have like a phone where you can listen to like a podcast or something? I don't know. Maybe you want to read a book. You know what? This is old school territory. All right. There's gonna be some old schoolers here. They're gonna want to. They're old school Polish people. It's Polish. I need to find a Polish audiobook to get in the mood. Polish audio book. Okay. I need to be a little more specific than that. Are audiobooks copyrighted? It's on YouTube, right? Well, that's not a good. Let's just do this.
A Short History of Poland. By A. S. Rappaport.
Okay.
Introduction. The country and its people. The Poles are a Slavonic race, a branch of the great Slavonic family whose possessions once stretched from the Baltic to the Adriatic and from the Elbe to the Borysthene, or Dnieper. The Slavs are an Indo-Germanic family and their cradle stood in Asia. For 2,000 years they inhabited the countries bounded by the Carpathians, the Baltic, and the Black Sea, and washed by the Oder, the Vistula, the Niemen, the Dvina, the Bug, the Dnieper, the Dniester, and the Danube.
There's a lot of words. Oh,
The
Danube,
Slavs
that's a river.
began to
Okay,
make
you're talking about
history
rivers,
somewhere
alright.
between the 2nd and 5th centuries, for the first mention of their existence in Europe is made by an historian about the year 376.
That's old.
Those Slavonic tribes which occupied the country bounded by the Carpathians, the Bug, and the Oder, and including both
The
banks of the
Oder.
Vistula, were the early ancestors of the Poles. The origin of the word Pole can be traced back to the 10th century. It was first applied to the country they inhabited, Polska meaning a plain. The Poles were therefore the dwellers of the plains.
Whoa,
The
that
country
sounds
was
lit.
indeed one vast plain and could scarcely boast of any natural boundaries, with the exception of the Baltic in the north and the Carpathians in the south. The
Bollocks.
great river of Poland is the Vistula, whose basin formed the center of their country and covered an area of
What is it, bro?
282,000 square miles.
What?
Apart from the Poles, who, as has been
What
pointed
is it,
out
bro?
above, are of Aryan descent, the country is inhabited
Aryan.
by Red Russians, or Tittle Russians,
Tittle?
who belong to the Eastern Slavs, whilst the Poles are of the
Kitty.
Western branch, White Russians. Lithuanians, Lets, Jews, Germans, Armenians, and Estonians. Ancient Poland was divided into 4 great districts or regions: Teutonic Poland, which was comprised of Bohemia, Mecklenburg, Holstein,
Rhapsody.
the marshes of Brandenburg, and Silesia. It stretched from the Elbe to the Oder and from the Danube to the Baltic. These districts, in the course of time, passed under other laws and dominations until now they helped to form the German Empire.
Okay.
In the basin of the Oder was Great Poland. It comprised Pomerania,
Right,
the
Greater
countries
Poland.
afterwards invaded by the Prussians, the Duchy of Masuria where Warsaw was founded, Kujavia with Posen and Gnezin. Then there was Little Poland with Krakow, the Kingdom of
Krakow,
Galicia
that's where
and
I
Red
live.
Russia. Lithuanian Poland, which was added later, comprised Lithuania, Courland, Samogitia, White Russia, and Black Russia. All these regions and countries constituted Poland in the days when she was a mighty realm. Gradually her frontiers were tightened until she was divided and swallowed up by her ambitious, and shall
Yep.
we say unscrupulous,
Remember that.
neighbors, but the national spirit which had
remember
animated
that.
the country has never been crushed. A political commonwealth may be destroyed, a country conquered, a nation exiled, but a race and the racial spirit can never die. The importance of Poland in European history is due not only to the vastness of her territories but
It
also to
also-
her antiquity.
They stopped the Mongols, I
For
think.
a long
right?
time Poland represented the spirit of independence and love of liberty which characterized the ancient Slavs. Rightly, therefore, says M. Salvandy, the historian of John Sobieski, the Polish nation is one of the most ancient in Europe if we trace back her history to her remote origin and beginning. The invasions of barbarians, of Scandinavians, of Norman, Danes, and Varangians did not affect her. It was Poland too who, together with Hungary
Poland
and
too.
Venice, saved the other nations from the invasion of Genghis Khan and his hordes.
Yeah, that's what I
Out
said.
of
That's what I
gratitude
said.
for their
They stopped
services,
the Mongols.
the other nations have since swallowed up Poland, Hungary, and Venice. In the history of nations, Poland represented the element and love of liberty, a Slavonic race, generous and chivalrous. The Poles were very jealous of their independence and constantly on their guard to defend this independence against the servitude of many laws, governments, or even civilization. The primitive democratic groups were united and fused into one, but the people, the nation, still remained the supreme ruler. Poland has never been anything but a republic, presided over by an elective chief. The nation elected the chiefs, who enjoyed the title of king. It was always the nation as a whole who, whilst electing or deposing their figurehead kings,
interesting.
actually ruled, reigned, governed, and administered, decreed and decided on war or peace. The first chief whom the nation placed upon the throne was a peasant of the house of Piast. Poland originally had all the elements required to constitute order, force, and progress. In ancient times the ruling, principal idea of Poland's existence was the aim of unity on the one hand, and faith in the common goal on the other. On the one side there was the king, anointed by the church, head of the voluntary army in representing the principle of unity, whilst on the other there was the nation, consisting of an association of men called upon in turn to fulfill their duty. One could scarcely find another nation which started her national and political life under such favorable auspices. While the rest of Europe was producing feudalism, the negation of unity and equality in the political, and the negation of the social ego in the intellectual, world, Poland, from the earliest times, stood for independence and liberty. Such were the beginnings of Poland when she knew only one nation and one people, neither masters nor slaves but equal members of the free and indivisible republic. Unfortunately, however, in the 13th century, Poland was divided among the sons of Boleslaw, and in the midst of internal wars forgot her destiny and her national aims. In the storm and stress of the wars waged between the four chiefs,
I have a question. Why is this 4 blocks tall and this is 3 blocks tall? I just don't know. Someone messed up. Somewhere along the way. I don't know who it was. I have my suspicions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know the problem. And we'll fix it. Now that I know the problem, see, all I had to do was figure out the problem, now we can fix it.
the military acquired power and privileges and constituted itself a nobility, thus depriving the people, who had reigned hitherto, of their ancient prerogatives.
Oh, hitherto.
Henceforth the nobles
Henceforth,
ruled,
dude,
elected
these
the
words.
kings, declared war and concluded peace, administered the country and enjoyed all the liberties and power. How do you find this book? Any thoughts about the book or the author?
Oh,
Any
cool.
suggestion for improvement?
Yes.
Please take
No.
a moment to share your thoughts in a comment. If you like it, share it with your friends who might enjoy it as well.
I'm sharing it with
Subscribe
the
to
entire
keep in
world
touch.
right now.
Visit
entire
CompleteAudiobooks.com for more quality content. From ancient times to the reign of Casimir II,
With the reign of Casimir. Wait, what?
The origin of the Polish
The reigns
nation
of
has been
Castamir?
traced back by the sagas and legends to the year
Is that what he
496,
just said?
the date of the victory of King Clovis, 78. The origin of the times to the reign of Casimir II,
Reign of Casimir II. That sounds so much like the Reigns of Castamir, the Game of Thrones song.
1178. The origin of the Polish nation has been traced back by the sagas and legends to the year 496, the date of the victory of King Clovis at Tolbiac and the foundation of the French as a people. These two nations, the French and the Polish, who have a great deal in common, are thus supposed to have been born on the same day.
Whoa.
All these old annals, however, give but vague and somewhat confused information.
I don't know what the word annals
They have
means.
come
I
down
don't
to
know.
us
I
through
don't
the
know
mist
word.
of centuries, and no serious historian has accepted them as solid fact. The sagas and legends of early Poland, however, are too romantic and interesting in themselves to be omitted in a popular treatise, therefore we shall deal with them here, at least
Treatise.
briefly.
There's a lot of words
Lek.
here that I don't know.
It is said in one of the early sagas that a certain Lek, accompanied by his brothers Czech and Rus, arrived in the country one day, many centuries ago, and founded the town of Nezin or Gniezno. In passing through the depths of a forest, Lek is supposed to have found an eagle's eyrie, Gniazdo, so he adopted the eagle as a symbol of his power and as his coat of arms, and founded a town on the spot. He is then supposed to have sent his brothers Czech and Rus to the east and to the west, and they, in their turn, founded the nations of Bohemia, Czechs, and Russia. Lek's own people were called after their first ruler the Lechites. Thus
Okay.
Lek is supposed to have been the first chief of the Poles, about the year 550, and to have roamed with his legions to the west and to the north of the Vistula. To have conquered Brandenburg, Silesia, Prussia, Pomerania, Holstein, and Saxony, and to have founded the first capital of the Polish kingdom, Nezin, the cradle of Polish greatness. After Lek, Ismar is said to have fought against the Danes at the head of a big and numerous fleet, to have seized all the
Big
Danish
fleet.
isles in the Baltic Sea, to have compelled the Danish king Svard to pay him tribute,
Okay.
and to have conquered the greater part of Denmark. Towards the end of the 7th century, we again see Poland divided and ruled over by 12 governors, voyevodas or military chiefs. One of these voyevodas, however, a certain Krak or Krakus, gathered all the power into his own hands and is said to have founded the city of Cracovie, or Krakow, where he established his
That's
residence.
where I'm from.
He called his city Krakow in imitation of the croaking of the ravens. After Czech
No, I
II,
thought it
the
was
son
for
of
the reason.
Krakus, the latter's beautiful sister, Wanda, took the reins of government into her hands. She had a number of suitors, one of them being a German prince named Rüdiger or Ridiger, who had sworn to secure the beautiful Wanda by fair or foul means. Und bist du nicht willig, so brauch ich Gewalt.
What?
Wanda, in reply, placed herself at the head of her army and defeated her too impetuous suitor in a bloody encounter.
Jesus.
Ridiger perished on the battlefield, while Wanda is supposed to have thrown herself into the Vistula.
Why'd you
Once
do
more
that?
Poland was divided and ruled over by 12 governors or military chiefs, and it was during their reign that the Hungarians and Moravians ravaged the country. Then the Poles again chose one single leader, a certain Leskus or Lesek. He was a brave and clever artisan whose real name was Przemysław. He is said to have defeated the Hungarians, some legends say Alexander the Great, in an ingenious manner. He formed figures of men with lances, swords, and shields, and then exposed them in the sun in such a way that the rays were reflected upon them. The enemy, frightened at the sight of these numerous imaginary soldiers, hastily retreated. After Leszek I, the Poles elected a young man of obscure origin as their ruler under the name of Leszek II. He triumphed over his rival in a horse race, which reminds us of the story of the election of Darius. Leszek II was of humble birth, yet power neither turned his head nor made him proud. He always kept the ragged garments which he had worn before his rise to power and would often gaze at them, the reminders of his humble and obscure origin. He is said to have perished in a battle which, together with the Bohemians, he fought against Charlemagne. His
Charlemagne the
successor,
Goat.
Leszek III, sought the friendship of Charlemagne and greatly distinguished himself by conquests. He left the throne to his two sons, one of whom, Popil I, was a weak, cowardly, and effeminate prince, who allowed his favorites to rule in his place. His brother, Popil II, poisoned his two uncles, but then, in expiation and as a punishment, perished himself in his palace built in the Lake Goplo, where he was
Loser.
devoured by rats.
Whoa.
This legend reminds us of that of Bishop Hatto. The Piasts. After an internal struggle, the Poles elected as their chief Piast, a simple peasant of Kruswica, who possessed a small piece of land, which he himself cultivated, and a few beehives. The name of this peasant soon became the highest title of nobility in Poland, and he was the progenitor of a dynasty which reigned in Poland until the year 1370, in the Duchy of Moravia until 1526, and in Silesia until 1575, that is to say. It existed for about 7 centuries. For 20 years Piast is supposed to have ruled over Poland, to have established internal peace on a firm footing, and to have greatly contributed to the general amelioration of manners and customs. Piast was succeeded by his son Zimovit in 860.
Zimovit, that is a
This
lit
prince
name.
subdued the neighboring tribes, aggrandized his lands situated in the districts of Nezen and Kruswica, and fought against the Moravians, the Hungarians, Prussians, and Pomeranians. The successors of Zimovit were Leszek IV and Zimamisl.
Zima
The latter
missile!
is said to have had a son who was born blind, but who miraculously recovered his eyesight in his 7th year. He was the symbol, say the ancient chronicles, of Poland opening her eyes to the light of the gospel. For this son of Zimamisl was Mieczysław I
Zima missile is
Mieszko.
insane.
Poland was at that time pagan, and the Germans were doing their utmost to spread Christianity among the Poles, hoping thus to establish their influence in the land. The German princes established military posts among the conquered neighboring tribes, posts commanded by the guardians of the frontiers and who were called markgrafs. Unable to resist the foreign influence, seeing so many changes among his neighbors, and above all afraid of the superior power of the Germans, Mieczysław decided to make an alteration in the customs of his country. He then became the Clovis of Poland. He repudiated his pagan wives and married a Christian princess, Dąbrowka, the daughter of the Duke of Bohemia, who arrived accompanied by several ecclesiastics. Mieczysław himself then adopted Christianity and was baptized by Bohawid. He placed the holy sign of redemption on the mountain Dysagora, built 9 churches and endowed them with considerable domains. Theologians were invited from France and Italy to instruct the people in the new religion. The
Nice.
people were converted to the new faith, Datin Christianity, thanks, chiefly, to the indefatigable efforts of Jordan, Bishop of Poland, assisted by Mieczysław himself and his wife Dąbrowka, and especially by St. Adalbert, Bishop of Prague, who traversed Krakow and Poland on his way to Prussia, whither he went to preach the gospel. The total conversion of the Poles, however, only took place in the 10th century under Boleslaw the Great or the Brave. Under Mieczysław, Poland comprised Silesia and Moravia, and her frontiers extended, on the one side as far as the lands of the Prussians, and on the other to the frontiers of Bohemia. After the death of Dąbrowka, 977, Mieczysław married Oda, the daughter of a German markgraf, and was soon compelled to acknowledge himself feudatory to the Emperor Otho I. However, he felt this humiliation very keenly, and it was his son, Boleslaw, who again freed Poland from the German yoke. Boleslaw, Boleslas, the Brave or the Great, 999-1026. Mieczysław died at the age of 61 and was succeeded by his son Boleslaw Chobry or the Brave, who may be considered as the real founder of the Kingdom of Poland.
Lit.
Boleslaw may with justice be looked upon as the Napoleon of Poland, for he was at once a great
Napoleon.
warrior and a fine administrator and legislator. He covered Poland's arms with glory, organized the country judicially and politically, and developed the nation's wealth and prosperity. He was great not only in victory but also in defeat. He was always powerful and ingenious. During the first year of his reign, Boleslaw had to fight against Vladimir, Duke, or Prince, of Kiev, a descendant of Rurik,
Oh,
but he
Kiev.
soon arranged a truce with the Russian prince,
that?
as he was compelled to use his armies against
Vladimir
other
and Kiev?
enemies.
Hold on.
The Bohemians had invaded Silesia and seized Krakow, but he drove them back and extended his frontiers beyond the Carpathians. Pomerania then acknowledged him as master, and the fame of his courage and daring exploits spread far and wide until at last it reached the ears of the German Emperor, Otho III. This monarch had a great admiration for the Polish hero and decided to see with his own eyes the brave duke and contemplate his almost fabulous greatness. Fortunately, the emperor had once made a vow that he would go on a pilgrimage to the shrine where the holy remains of Saint Adalbert reposed. St. Adalbert, Bishop of Prague, had left his bishopric and gone out to preach the gospel to the heathen Prussians and had suffered martyrdom, for he was killed by a pagan Prussian. Boleslaw had
Pig?
purchased the bishop's
Oh,
remains
pagan.
and had
Oh, I
had
thought
them
you said it was killed
transported
by
to
pig. I
Nezen,
was like,
where even now they are looked
Robert.
upon as a sacred relic. The events of the martyr's life are described on the gates of the cathedral there. Boleslaw went out to meet the emperor, and together they entered Nezen, where they were received by the clergy, the nobility in rich and splendid array, and by a brilliant army. Fair ladies resplendent in gold and precious stones completed the imposing cortege. At the banquets which Boleslaw held in honor of the emperor, a new service of gold and silver plate was used each day and was then sent to the emperor's house as a gift. The emperor was so impressed by the power, magnificence, and generosity of Boleslaw that he testified his gratitude by elevating the Duchy of Poland into a kingdom. Boleslaw was solemnly anointed king by the Bishop of Nezen, whilst the emperor himself placed the crown upon the head of his friend and ally. Thus Boleslaw became the first king of Poland, ally of the emperor, free of all tribute. The emperor also gave him the lance of Saint Maurice, in exchange for which he received an arm of Saint Adalbert. The new king soon had an opportunity to show that he well deserved the title newly conferred upon him. He successfully fought and conquered Bohemia, Moravia, and Misnia, or Servia, and added them to his kingdom. Edirne Germany became
Greater
alarmed
Poland.
at the success of the Polish king and the triumph of Polish arms, and the then emperor, Henry of Bavaria, who did not know the Joseph of Poland, and was jealous of his greatness, joined a confederacy formed to humble the pride of brave Boleslaw. The latter, however, won a victory over the Germans and defeated them several times in a war which lasted about 15 years. At last he concluded a peace with them at Merseburg, 1013, by which it was agreed that the lands beyond the Oder were free of German control. This left Boleslaw free to turn his army against the Pomeranians and Prussians, whom he subdued, compelling the latter to embrace Catholic Christianity. As a sign of his domination in Prussia and Germany, he erected in the river Asa, in the neighborhood of Rogozno and Laskzen, and also in the Elba and the Sala, iron pillars with the inscription, High Est Polonia. Yet even then Boleslaw was not allowed to lay down his arms. Sviatopolk, Prince of Tver, who had been expelled from Russia by his brother Yaroslav, son of Prince Vladimir the Great, sought refuge at the court of Poland, and Poland's brave king decided to help the exiled prince. Boleslaw defeated Yaroslav on the banks of the Bug and reinstated Sviatopolk, but when the latter failed to show his gratitude, he took Kiev, which, at the time, rivaled Constantinople in magnificence and splendor.
Dang.
He made his triumphal entry into Kiev in 1018 and is said to have struck the golden gates of the city with his sword. It was the sword that the Emperor Otho had given him, and because of the shock the sword received it was henceforward called the Broken Sword, and religiously preserved among the royal treasures at Krakow until 1795. For 8 centuries the kings of Poland girded on this sword for the ceremony of coronation. The crown and sword of Boleslaw have escaped the covetousness of the rulers of Petrograd, Vienna, and Berlin. These glorious antiquities are still awaiting the renaissance of Poland, which, perhaps, may not be far off. Among the treasures which Boleslaw carried away from Kiev were the bronze gates, originally brought from Constantinople. They were placed in the Cathedral of Gnezin, and it is upon these gates that the history of the martyrdom of Saint Adalbert is written. The last 6 years of his reign Boleslaw spent in strenuous efforts to repair some of the evils he had been compelled to cause by his constant wars. He did his best to improve the moral and temporal state of his nation,
Dope.
to raise and develop the prosperity of Poland. He built new cities and invited merchants from Greece to visit the country so as to further commerce. He devoted much of his attention to administration and the course of justice, and called upon 12 of his wisest nobles to assist him. He personally traveled through his kingdom and inquired into the manner and method with which the local magistrates administered justice. And yet the power of the king and of his council in no way interfered with the individual liberty of his subjects, or with the communal freedom,
Forgot I had
the
well
inhabitants of the various
Could've done all
communities,
this with well
in
edited.
accordance with the immemorial custom,
I completely forgot. I'm so
still
sorry.
assembled to deliberate upon public affairs. Boleslaw made roads throughout Poland to facilitate the visits of mercantile caravans, and Norman, Danes, Englishmen, Germans, and Russians came to Poland. The country was prosperous, but the habits and customs of the inhabitants were simple. The churches and private dwellings were built of wood. Land was given to the prisoners of war, who were thus turned into agriculturists. They then received their liberty, for according to the custom of the people the land could only be cultivated by free men. Boleslaw also invited Benedictine monks from France and founded monasteries on Lisagora, at Ciciechua, and Tynek. He was a true father of his people, and he not only conquered but organized and conserved his conquests. The ideal which upheld him in his wars against the Russians and the Germans was to make Poland the center of the Slav nationality. Boleslaw died in 1025.
Rip.
He was accepted
R.I.P.
as the
legend.
greatest sovereign of his age, and his people deeply mourned him. He died and was buried at Posen. Mieczyslaw II, 1025–1034. Mieczyslaw II, who ascended the throne vacated by his great father, was a weak, pleasure-loving prince, incapable of governing a turbulent nation or of waging war against ambitious and rapacious neighbors. He had married Rixa, the daughter of the Count Palatine of the Rhine and niece of Emperor Otho III, and was absolutely under her sway. Poland, under his rule, suffered all the horrors of war and lost a great portion of the conquests of his brave father, especially Moravia.
Yikes.
The Russians and Pomeranians then decided to have their revenge, and Mieczyslaw was rudely awakened from his dolce far niente and dreams of sensuality and voluptuousness by these several defeats and losses. The life he led hastened his end, and he died of insanity.
Died of
Then
insanity.
his wife Rixa or Rikiza, took the reins of government
How do
into
you
her
die
own
of
hands
insanity?
and ruled as regent for her young son. She was a German, hated and despised the Poles, and was therefore very
Jesus.
unpopular.
Yeah, I can imagine.
During the weak reign of Mieczyslaw II, the Polish nobility or the Szlachta, which afterwards played such an important role in Polish history, had become very powerful, and under Rixa this power greatly increased. The Poles finally revolted against the foreign princess and she was compelled to flee the country together
that'll
with her
happen.
son. A period of anarchy followed, the peasants rebelled against the nobles and seigneurs and the pagans vented their wrath upon the Christians, churches were sacked and ecclesiastics massacred.
Jesus.
The Russians on the one side, and the Bohemians on the other, availed themselves of this state of confusion in
darn
Poland
Russians,
and invaded
dude.
the country,
These darn
burned,
Russians.
pillaged,
I
and
gotta
ravaged
stop
it.
invading Poland.
Some years passed, during which the country,
Stop doing
torn
my
by
boy like that.
factions and parties, each striving for the supreme power by the force of arms, suffered much. Paganism had its stronghold in the province of Masovia, which was governed by one Moislav, a former cupbearer of the late King of Poland, who, although he governed despotically, yet defended it against invasion. At last, tired of the state of anarchy prevailing in the country, the bishops and nobles gathered together and decided to recall Casimir, or Casimirs, the son of Mieczyslav II. A deputation was consequently sent to Rixa, who informed them that her son was studying at Liege. Casimir returned to his
Liege
native
of
land and was
Legends.
crowned at Nezan in 1041. This prince restored peace to the country, reconciled the various factions and enhanced his own prestige by an alliance with Yaroslav, Prince of Kiev, whose sister Maria, or Dobraniga, he married. Henri I of France having married another sister, Casimir thus became brother-in-law of the King of France. That Casimir had, before his accession to the throne, taken the cowl at Cluny is probably only a legend, but be that as it may, he invited the monks of Cluny to come to Poland and founded 2 monasteries for them, one on the Oder in Silesia, and the other near Krakow. Moislav or Maslav, or Massos, for a time refused to recognize the authority of Casimir until the latter defeated him at Plock in 1047. Casimir was surnamed the Restorer, for he restored peace and calm to the country and ruled with wisdom and sagacity. He re-established the bishoprics, abbacies, and convents and contributed to the prosperity of the land. He died, after a reign of 16 years, in 1058 and was buried at Posen. Boleslaw II, 1058–1080, surnamed the Bold. Casimir the Restorer was succeeded by his eldest son, Boleslaw, who evidently inherited the fighting qualities of the first Boleslaw.
Nice.
He took up the cause of many of the weak princes and offered them his protection. Such were Bela, Prince of Hungary, Jaromir, Duke of Bohemia, and Cyaslaw, Prince of Kiev. Boleslaw was successful in his campaigns in Bohemia, Hungary, and Russia, but on his return to Poland he so cruelly punished the originators of certain disorders which had arisen during his absence that Stanislaus, Bishop of Krakow, considered it his duty to rebuke him. The king was so infuriated at this that he murdered the bishop with his own hands.
Dude, this guy's playing
Gregory the
Crusader
Seventh,
Kings 3
then
right
Pope,
now. That's crazy.
was not the man to let such a crime pass unpunished, and Boleslaw was excommunicated, accursed, and dethroned. Abandoned by all, the king fled to Hungary, where he died in misery.
Jesus.
Some say that this once powerful king, who had led a life of luxury, found an asylum in the monastery of Willich, where, under an assumed name, he performed menial tasks for the monks, who only after his death discovered his identity. The Pope not only dethroned Boleslaw, but he refused to permit the successors of the murderer king to assume the regal title.
Scum.
Therefore for 2 centuries Poland was again a duchy. Upon the expulsion
Sorry,
of
that's a scum
Boleslaw,
lord move,
the
sorry.
Poles raised his brother Vladislaw I to the throne. He repulsed successfully various foreign invasions at different points of his frontiers. Vladislaw had a son named Boleslaw, by his wife Judith, who was the daughter of the Duke Vratislaw of Bohemia. This young prince was but 9 years old when he first accompanied his father on his campaigns, and he showed thus early great bravery and courage. In 1102 he succeeded his father as Boleslaw the Wry-mouthed, because of a peculiarity of his mouth caused by an illness. Boleslaw III, 1102–1139. Boleslaw III was one of Poland's greatest kings and a worthy successor to the first and second Boleslaw.
Cool.
He reigned for 37 years and for practically all that time waged war against his neighbors, the Germans, Pomeranians, Bohemians, and Russians, and was victorious in 37 battles. In 1112 and 1113 he accompanied the Crusaders to Palestine and also undertook a pilgrimage to the tomb of Saint Gilles in France. Before his death, he divided his patrimony among his 4 sons. A proceeding which led to many feuds and conflicts, to the great
Yeah,
detriment
that'll-
of the nation.
That'll happen.
He
That's why
died in
that's why you
1139.
Don't divide them between your sons.
The period which we have briefly
It's not a good
sketched in the
idea.
preceding pages extends over 3 centuries and is known as that of conquering Poland. Under the first rulers of the House of Piast, Poland was bounded by the Carpathians and the Baltic and comprised the lands situated between the Oder, the Bug, and the Niemen. Gradually, however, under the first Christian kings, her frontiers were extended as far as the banks of the Dnieper and the Elbe. She ruled, too, over the pagan inhabitants on the shores of the Baltic, such as the Pomeranians and the Prussians. Quite frequently also she included under her sway the neighboring countries of Bohemia and Hungary and often acted as the protector of the feeble and the oppressed. She assisted the Russians in their struggle against their tyrants and the Germans in throwing off the yoke of their emperors. For 3 centuries the chief of the state on the one hand and the nobles on the other endeavored to accumulate property and power, forces which were originally, as was the custom in all Slavonic countries, the possession of the community. Gradually the system of private possessions was established and the foundations of class distinctions and of a powerful nobility, rivals of the king, were laid. The kings too endeavored to concentrate all the power in their own hands and to exercise all the prerogatives which before had belonged to the community at large. The king began to consider himself the hereditary possessor of the land, which he divided among his children.
Oh, God.
The royal power reached its summit in 1025, after which it slowly waned. The bishops, palatines, governors of provinces, high dignitaries, and nobles each tried to accumulate as much power as possible and to restrict that of the king, until finally the nobility won the day. This nobility was only a race tradition. It was a class of Lechites who took the name of Slechites, hence Slakta, won and formed the elite of the army. They were called nobles in Caton and were distinguished by a golden chain which they wore around the neck.
That's kind of iced out.
The lowest
low-key.
peasant could acquire this distinction. All that was required of him was the possession of a horse, a shield, a cuirass, and a complete equipment. Thus power ennobled men of lower station.
Queer ass?
The lower classes of society in Poland were of many gradations. In military service they were the equals of the nobles and enjoyed similar rights. Their disputes were settled by the same jurisdiction and courts. They could possess private property, and their hereditary rights were respected. They could move about freely from village to village and settle wherever they pleased. There were also serfs, prisoners of war, or men condemned for debts and other transgressions. This condition was, however, only a temporary one, for by cultivating the land the serf acquired his liberty, and his descendants formed part of the nation. The serf, thus liberated, performed military service and was entitled to aspire to the dignity of noble. The population of Poland was a movable one, roaming about from one district to another. Although a fairly large kingdom, Poland had no fixed capital. It was only in 1080 that Krakow became a kind of center. It was also in accordance with the last instructions of Boleslaw III that in future the head of the state had to reside in that city. 2. Poland divided, from Casimir II, 1178 to 1194, to Jagiello. After many struggles and vicissitudes and the brief reigns of Władysław II, Boleslaw IV, and Mieczyslaw III, all the dominions of Boleslaw Wrymouth, with the exception of Silesia, which had become Germanist under the elder Piasts, were once more concentrated in the hands of Casimir II, the youngest son of Boleslaw III. This prince twice refused the ducal throne. At last, however, he was prevailed upon to lay aside his modesty and delicacy of feeling and to consider the welfare of his country and his nation. He was surnamed the Just and was noted for the mildness of his rule. He convened an assembly of nobles and bishops at Iexica, which meeting is now looked upon as the first attempt at Polish legislation and the foundation of the Polish Senate. He was perhaps the most affable monarch who sat on the Polish throne. The years which elapsed after his death in 1194 until the accession to the throne of Przemysław in 1295 are of little interest in the history of Poland. We shall but briefly summarize the principal events. The throne was successively occupied by Leszek or Leskis, the White, Władysław IV, Boleslaw V, and Leszek the Black. During the reign of Leszek the White, the Teutonic Order of Knights settled in the territories of the Baltic and laid the foundations of the Prussian monarchy. This order was originally founded during the Siege of Acre by German knights for the purpose of assisting the Christian pilgrims in Jerusalem and to wash the wounds of the wounded and alleviate their sufferings. The order was approved of by the emperor in 1191 and also by the pope. The knights had to be of noble descent, to vow themselves to celibacy and to defend the pilgrims in the Holy Land. Their habit was a black coat with a white mantle and a black cross. At first but a few, their numbers soon increased to 40. Conrad, Duke of Moravia, brother of Leszek the White, invited them to Poland and offered them the territory of Cholm or Chelm, that they might convert the heathen Prussians to Christianity. Boleslaw V was very young when he ascended the throne of Poland. He reigned from 1227 to 1279, and it was during his reign that the Great Mongolian invasion took place. Emerging from the depths of Asia, the vast hordes of the Tartars invaded Poland about the year 1240.
That's crazy.
The country, weakened by internal strife, was not really able to resist the invasion, and many towns were devastated and much land laid waste. However, after the gallantly fought Battle of Liegnitz, in Silesia, the tide turned and the Tartars went on into Hungary, where they finally subsided. During this reign many colonies of Germans and Armenians came to settle in Poland, whose trade and commerce they greatly increased. Although the industry and labor of the German colonists were very useful to the country and greatly furthered its prosperity, yet Poland, in allowing them within her borders, took the great risk of losing her distinctive nationality, of having it submerged in that of the foreigners, of being Germanized. The dukes, in order to attract the German traders and artisans, offered them many privileges. Entire cities and burgs even were governed by the Teutonic law, the Jus Magdeburgicum. Many Polish princes showed their liking for Germanism by adopting the German language as the official tongue, in place of the Latin which had hitherto been used. Indeed, it may be said that Polish nationality was only saved by the priests and bishops, who jealously guarded and defended it through these troublous times. It was also about this epoch that Lithuania began to exercise her strength against Moscow and the Tartars. Boleslaw, surnamed the Chaste, was succeeded by his nephew, Desek the Black, 1279 to 1289. In the course of the 17 years which followed the death of Desek the Black, Poland had many wars and was governed by many dukes, who disputed the power. These were Boleslaw VI, Henry IV, Przemysław, Wenceslaw of Bohemia, and Władysław IV, the Short or Dokitek. Przemysław restored the regal title, but instead of humiliating himself before the Pope to solicit the crown, he simply paid no attention to the Holy Father but received the royal crown from his own nobles and clergy amid the acclamations of his people. He restored peace to the country and established his authority in Pomerania. Unfortunately, however, he was murdered at Rogozno, whither he had retired to celebrate one of the high festivals of the church. The long reign of Władysław, Dokitek, was one great struggle against the Teutonic Knights. These, although they owed everything to one of Władysław's ancestors, became very arrogant and attempted to exercise supreme authority over certain Polish territories. In spite of many successes, Władysław could not wholly resist the invading storm of the Knights, and therefore many Polish possessions remained in their hands. With his last words, Władysław urged his son Casimir to wage an extermination war against the perfidious Knights. Rather bury yourself under the ruins of your throne than suffer them to hold the territories they have invaded. Punish the Knights of the Teutonic Order and the Marquis of Brandenburg. These were the last words of the dying king. Władysław had been the first Polish monarch to be crowned at Krakow, which from that time became the center and foyer of Polish life and history. He was buried in the Wawel, a faubourg of Krakow, and his son Casimir III succeeded him upon the throne of Poland, reigning from 1333 to 1370.2. The internal state of Poland divided was a deplorable one. Devastated by the invasions of the Tartars, Prussians, Russians, Lithuanians, and the Teutonic Knights, the country was a prey to all the horrors of long-drawn-out war. Discord, too, reigned between the princes. The crown and the succession became the object of constant friction, which could not but cause the country to suffer greatly. The internal disorder was increased by the numerous privileges exercised by the bishops and of which the nobles were jealous. The German influence also, as has already been pointed out, greatly undermined the stability of the nation. We have previously referred to the Jus Magdeburgicum, which was in existence in Poland. These privileges, jure Teutonico, were profusely multiplied during the century 1280 to 1380 and spread all over Poland, a considerable part of the country. Entire towns, burghs, communes, villages, and hamlets were governed by this law. The law of the foreigner, in contradistinction to the law of the country, the jure Polonicale. German nationality, legislation, jurisdiction, influence, tradition, and customs were thus paramount in the country and completely undermined the autonomy of Poland. It was the foreign fatherland in the native land, Germany in Poland. Whilst the nobles and serfs were governed by the rules and institutions of the Slavs, the burghers in the towns only recognized German
crazy.
law and Germanic institutions.
Burgers
The
is
Poles,
crazy, I'm
therefore,
sorry.
only consisted of two classes, the nobility or szlachta, and the people or narod. The people or lower class consisted of free peasants and those attached to the land or the glebe, who were the servi glebes or adscripti. The free peasants, who could leave their master at will, paid him a rent for the land they cultivated. Both free and bond peasants were also called kmetho or kmetho, from the Latin comes. To these two classes of Poles we must also add that of the ecclesiastics. Each town, called miasto, was a somewhat independent republic with its own separate existence, its own government, local legislation, administration, jurisdiction, and even armed force. Gradually all the capitals, cities, and more important burghs became so many republics, whose foreign character naturally deeply affected the national existence of Poland. Germans dominated everywhere and even exercised a great influence at the courts of the dukes and the grand seigneurs. The German language was spoken by the nobles, who thus distinguished themselves from the common people, who remained faithful to their national language. Throughout Silesia, the German language was generally adopted. It was spoken in all the big cities as far as Posen and Krakow. The priests and the ecclesiastics were able to save the Polish nationality, thanks to their influence over the schools, which were wholly under their control. The histories were written in Latin, but the bishops instructed the masters and teachers to translate them into the vernacular, that is, the Polish language, and to explain them to their pupils, at the same time forbidding the masters to avail themselves of the German tongue. Therefore it was solely due to the episcopal and ecclesiastical hierarchy that the nationality of Poland was saved.
Nice.
The bishops assembled in synods in the presence of the barons and the other high dignitaries and framed and issued regulations which dealt with all the inhabitants. Indeed, it cannot be too often said that it was the Polish clergy which saved Polish nationality, history, language, and customs, and in the midst of the general chaos and anarchy maintained order, morality, and unity among the people. In their councils, the bishops settled all the affairs of the state with the assistance and consent of the barons, whilst the king never decided on anything, nor issued any decree, without first consulting the high dignitaries of his realm, among whom the bishops played an important role. This council was changed into a senate in 1180 and the archbishops of Gnesen and Krakow held the first and second positions in it. The Senate was the outcome of the united endeavors of the nobility and clergy to combat the absolutistic tendencies of the sovereigns and to compel them to submit their decisions and decrees to a
Absolutistic.
legislative assembly. They had fought for the principle of a free state with national representation, and at last they realized it in the form of the Senate. Although it was undoubtedly the clergy who had saved the national independence and the national life, yet the nobility soon showed the signs of jealousy, turbulence, and egotism which later were to prove fatal to Poland and to lead to her decline and eventual dissolution. For 140 years, from 1180 to 1320, when Władysław Łokietek was crowned king, the aristocratic anarchy reigned supreme and manifested itself in crimes, treacheries, conspiracies, and assassinations. However, Władysław Łokietek soon re-established the national unity and made wise and beneficial laws. He resuscitated the Polish common law, although for a portion of the population he also sanctioned the existing Teutonic or municipal law, which prevailed in the cities. Though the nobles had usurped all the privileges and concentrated all the political power in their own hands, yet special laws protected the peasants, and indeed favored the urban inhabitants. The
They called me a
busy
bookcase.
centers of industry, were peopled chiefly by the numerous aliens. In order to gain some idea of the great difference and distinctions which existed between these two classes, it is sufficient to consider the amount of the fine imposed for the murder of an individual belonging to either of them. The sum fixed for the fief of a noble was 12 marks, whilst that of a kmetho was only valued at 3 marks. Later, these sums were increased, and the fief of a noble or an ecclesiastic was worth varying sums from 30 to 60 marks, £44 to £88,
Mark Antony.
whilst that of a kmetho rose from 6 to 15 marks. Although the kmethos were really free men and only obliged to pay rent to the seigneurs, either in the form of money, produce, or labor, yet the barons considered them as their subjects and found 1,001 means of depriving them of their little possessions and then expelling them from their land. Regardless of the fact that the law recognized the liberty of the kmetho and his hereditary rights. But the feudalism and serfdom which at that time were prevalent almost everywhere in Europe were practically unknown in Poland. For a short time feudalism thrived in Lithuania, but it soon died out again when this country became closely connected with Poland. Flourishing Poland. Casimir, surnamed the Great, and who well deserved the title in many ways, was elected in succession to King Vladislav IV. His reign was a long and prosperous one for Poland, 1333 to 1370. Though his father, with his dying breath, had entreated him to expel the Teutonic Knights from his dominions, Casimir did not feel himself strong enough to carry on such a war with any certainty of success. Besides, Casimir saw clearly that the internal state of the kingdom was such that immediate reforms were absolutely necessary, and in order to carry out his legislative and administrative measures, peace was imperative. He therefore concluded a treaty with the knights, according to which Kujavia and Dobrzyń were restored to Poland, while Casimir renounced all claims on Pomerania. He also ceded Silesia in exchange for the King of Bohemia's renunciation of all claims to the crown of Poland. Casimir does not appear to have had much ability in managing foreign political affairs. His chief aim was to reform the country internally and to put it in a position to defend itself, and he completely succeeded. He gave his whole attention to rearranging the laws of his country. Both the judges and the laws themselves required reforming and change. In order to frame a new code of laws which should be uniform in character and universal in application, the king convened the famous Diet of Wisłaka. This consisted of prelates, nobles, castellans, and other magistrates. They elaborated a code of laws which it was decided should be perpetual and obligatory. The code consisted of 2 books, one for Little and the other for Great Poland. In an age of feudalism, when civil rights were being trampled underfoot and the right of private property barely respected, this code of laws proved of great value. The National Diet then became a regular feature in the country. The first known Diet or Sejm was assembled in 1331 at Chesiny by the aged father of Casimir, Vladislav. The Diet was then composed of prelates, members of the nobility, barons, and knights. The burghers, who were mostly Germans, and the Jews were not admitted to it, while the peasants, who were gradually being reduced to the state of bondmen by the ambitious and rapacious nobility, were of course not represented in it. As regards the foreign law, which was prevalent in the towns whose inhabitants were mostly German, Casimir did not wholly abolish it, but retained as much as he thought to be necessary for the encouragement of art and industry. The tribunals in the towns and cities were still subject to Teutonic law, but the appeal to Magdeburg was prohibited. Instead, a Teutonic tribunal was established at Krakow. This consisted of a judge and 7 respectable householders, who were nominated by the starosta or elder. Casimir submitted to the Diet not only questions of internal policy and the ceding of provinces, but in 1339, on May 8, at Krakow, he practically granted the nobles the power of electing their kings when he proposed to them his nephew, Louis of Hungary, as his successor. He impressed the members of the Diet with a sense of their power, and thus may be said to have laid the foundation of the extensive sway which the aristocracy henceforth exercised over the destinies of Poland. A sway which undermined the prestige of the monarchy, and so, instead of strengthening the republic, led to its decay and downfall. Casimir endeavored to encourage commerce, industry, and learning. He built colleges, hospitals, and churches. He built fortresses too, and laid the foundation of the University of Krakow in 1364. Danzig and Krakow joined the Hanseatic League, and from various parts of Germany new colonists came to Poland, and its commerce flourished and was prosperous. Casimir was, in many respects, a great king, and really deserved the title his people bestowed on him. Great as he was, however, Casimir, not unlike many other kings both before and since, was not without many faults, especially as far as his private life was concerned. He was addicted to drink, and his love affairs are supposed to have been very numerous. He was married 4 times, but to neither of his wives did he remain faithful. During the lifetime of his father he married Anna Aldona, the daughter of Gedimin, Prince of Lithuania. After her death he married Margaret, the daughter of John of Bohemia, who was killed at the Battle of Crécy. She is said to have died of a broken heart.
That's not a thing.
In 1341 Casimir married Princess Adelaide, but she quarreled with him and was shortly relegated to a fortress. Among the numerous favorites who constituted Casimir's seraglio, which was a kind haute park aux serfs filled with fair and frail ladies, there is supposed to have been a beautiful Jewess of the name of Esther, who, like her prototype in the Book of Esther, is said to have obtained many favors from her royal lover. Indeed, in 1334 Casimir promulgated the statute concerning the Jews, and in 1337 another entitled Privilegia Judiciarum. The privileges which Casimir thus granted to the Jews remained in force for many years. Some Polish historians, however, reject the story of Esther and attribute Casimir's kind treatment of the Jews simply to his sense of justice. Casimir's last wife was Jadwiga of Glogo, whom he married in 1365. On the occasion of the marriage of the king's granddaughter to the Emperor Charles, brilliant scenes were witnessed at Krakow. The kings of Hungary, Cyprus, and Denmark, the dukes of Bavaria, Schweidnitz, Opoln, and Moravia, and many other princes were present. During Casimir's reign many adherents of the sect of the Flagellants, so called from their self-inflictions, entered Poland from Hungary. It is also during the reign of Casimir that we first hear of Warsaw. Casimir died in 1370 in consequence of a fall from his horse and was buried in the Cathedral of Krakow under a monument of reddish-brown marble. He was succeeded by his nephew, Louis of Hungary, 1370-1382, who was a Capet, and therefore a descendant of Charles of Anjou, the brother of St. Louis. Busy with his own kingdom of Hungary and adored by the Hungarians, Louis left the regency of the country in the hands of his mother Elizabeth, and only appeared twice in Krakow. The Hungarian rule was very unpopular, and the Poles greatly resented the king's ignorance of their language. Louis's mother, an arrogant and avaricious princess, did nothing to contribute to a reconciliation between her son and his new subjects. Louis died in 1382 and with him the line of the Piasts came to an end. 3. The dynasty of Jagiello, Jadwiga or Hedwig, 1382-1386. The death of Louis of Hungary closes the period of Polish history which has been termed Divided Poland, and which covers 244 years and is full of important events. In consequence of the internal strifes and conflicts occasioned by the distribution of provinces among the princes of the reigning house, and also of the invasions of the Tartars, Mongols, Lithuanians, and the rebellion of the Teutonic Knights, Poland's strength was continually being weakened. Yet in spite of many calamities and the momentary loss of several provinces, the Republic, for so Poland was styled, still preserved her first rank among the nations and her political and religious unity. Nay, she even extended her frontiers towards the east and acquired a few Slavonic countries or districts, such as Red Russia, Volhynia, and Podolia. Special laws protected the peasants, but nevertheless the nobles held all the political power in their hands. The fact of there being 2 pretendants to the throne of Louis I of Poland, namely, his 2 daughters, Mary, who was married to Sigismund, and Hedwig, who was only 14, caused a short interregnum, of which the turbulent nobles fully availed themselves. They heartily embraced the opportunity of increasing their privileges and exacting new concessions. Hedwig was at last elected queen and entered Krakow as such on October 15, 1384. The people received her with long shouts of "Long live Queen Jadwiga." Polish historians all describe the deep impression which the young and beautiful princess produced upon such an enthusiastic and easily impressed people as the Poles. She was a granddaughter, too, of the great Casimir, the peasants' king, Król Klopov. But if the people rejoiced, the young queen was sad at heart, for the Diet had decided that she should marry Jagiello, Prince of Lithuania. They cared but little for the personal inclination of the queen, who had given her young affections to William, Duke of Ragusa. She was not the first princess compelled by reasons of state to sacrifice love upon the altar of policy.
Gotta make some
She
sacrifices
yielded,
sometimes.
but, at first, wanted to say a last goodbye to her lover, who had appeared at Krakow with a large retinue. The queen was not allowed to see him, but was kept a prisoner in her own palace.
Jesus.
In her despair she is said to have seized a hatchet and to have threatened to break open her gates. Her paroxysm of passion, however, soon subsided. The Prince of Lithuania came, and although this barbarian, clad in skins, frightened the tender Jadwiga, he did not quite displease her. Jagiello was the sovereign of Lithuania or Litva, the close neighbor of Poland. It was inhabited by barbarian
Is this the
tribes known as the
Polish-Lithuanian
Lithuanians, Samajidians, Lets,
Is this
and
the
White
time?
Russians. The boundaries of the country during its greatest expansion extended from the Baltic to the Black Sea. The capital of Lithuania was Wilno and the official language White Russian. The Lithuanians were pagans and the priestly caste had great influence among them. The most powerful sovereigns of Lithuania were Mindon and his son Gedimin, 1315–1340. The latter's son Algird, 1345–1377, increased the power of his principality by adding to it Podolia, Mohilev, and Vitebsk. He even extended his sway over the republics of Pskov and Novgorod the Great. He also laid siege to Moscow 3 times. Jagiello was the son of this Algird. He offered not only to abjure paganism and to compel his subjects to embrace Christianity, but also to unite his own dominions with Poland and to conquer Pomerania, Silesia,
Yeah,
and the
the
other provinces which had been
Polish
lost to
Union.
the Polish crown. Jadwiga or Hedwig was duly married to Jagiello, who, on his baptism into the Christian faith, was given the name of Władysław. Faithful to his promises, he at once effected the conversion of his subjects to Christianity. At the Diet convened at Wilno, Vilna, he decided to abolish idolatry in the Duchy of Lithuania. The savage customs of the rude barbarians were done away with and the altars of the principal pagan god, Perkin, destroyed. In order to convince his subjects completely of the impotence of their heathen gods, Jagiello commanded the sacred fires to be extinguished, the holy serpents to be slain, and the altars upon
the
which the
serpents.
human sacrifices had been offered up to be totally
My
destroyed.
God.
Surprised to see such terrible sacrilege go unpunished, the barbarians began to doubt the power of their gods and were, therefore, soon prevailed upon to accept baptism. Jagiello to Władysław VI,
Yeah, don't be
Warnenczyk,
doing human
1386 to
sacrifice.
1434.
It's not good.
Lithuania was now united to Poland, and the new king transferred his residence
Yeah.
from Vilna to Krakow. The Lithuanians did not accept the fusion without a murmur, and Vitovt, one of Jagiello's brothers, compelled the latter to recognize Lithuania as a sort of uppunage of the crown. The Lithuanian nobles were permitted the same privileges as those enjoyed by the Polish aristocracy. During the reign of Jagiello, the Teutonic Knights, who were attacked by the combined forces of Poland and Lithuania, were defeated in the famous Battle of Grunwald, in the vicinity of Tannenberg in Prussia, in 1410, and 50,000 of the knights, including their Grand Master, are supposed to have been killed. Queen Hedwig died in 1389, but Jagiello, who had no claim to the Polish crown, except as her husband, still continued to rule as king for over 40 years. He is said to have been an amiable and considerate man and to have been greatly attached to his wife, although some historians accuse him of jealousy and inconsiderate treatment of her. At the
Dang.
Diet of Yedlin in 1430 Jagello's son, Vladislav, was declared his successor. The nobles, however, made him grant them new concessions in return for their consenting to accept his son as king. No sooner, however, did the old king die, in 1434, than trouble arose. Vladislav, being very young, was under the tutelage of the great ecclesiastic Zbigniew Olesnicki, 1454, and of his mother. He had scarcely reached his majority when he was offered the crown of Hungary and Bohemia. It was at the suggestion of John Corvinus, who afterwards became the famous Huniades, that the crown was offered to Vladislav VI, who, it was hoped, would defend the Hungarians against the Turks. Their great heroic struggle against the Turks, which lasted over 2.5 centuries, had but just begun. Vladislav entered upon a campaign against the Turks, but was defeated and killed at the Battle of Varna in 1444. After a short interregnum, Casimir, brother of the late king, was elected to the throne, 1447 to 1492. During his reign, Poland greater than became a true republic, with her kings little more than mere presidents or the lieutenants of the Diet. The constitution of the republic was firmly established, the nobles acquired the right to send deputies to the Diet, and the Statute of Nicosia, near Thorn, consecrated the rights and privileges of the Polish nobility. This was the Polish Magna Carta. It was also during the reign of Casimir for that the Prussians, tired of the tyranny of the Teutonic Knights, cast off their rule and acknowledged themselves vassals of Poland. The Poles warred against the Knights until at last a treaty was signed at Thorn, according to which Western Prussia, Danzig, one of the chief towns of the Hanseatic League, and Thorn were ceded to Casimir. Whilst Eastern Prussia was left in the hands of the Knights, whose Grand Master had to acknowledge himself a vassal of Poland. The country also lost Novgorod the Great, which had been joined to Lithuania. It was taken by Ivan III of Moscow, which principality soon became a dangerous neighbor and rival of Poland. Casimir was succeeded by his son John Albert, in spite of the opposition of the Lithuanian nobility, who wanted to place Alexander, another son of Casimir's, upon the throne, and when John Albert died in 1501. This Alexander was finally elected king. His wife was Helen, a daughter of Ivan the Great of Russia and of Sophia Paleolog, who was heiress to the throne of Byzantium. Russia, or rather Moscow, was rapidly becoming a strong and formidable rival of Poland, which led to continual struggles between them, and in spite of the close alliance by marriage of the two countries. War was actively waged between Russia and Poland.
Hold on. Oh my God. We are maybe 25% through this.
The war...
We're not going to be able to finish this today. I'm so sorry. I was enjoying it. That was great. But it is impossible. Well, that was great. This was great. It turned out, you know, it didn't start off too well, just like how most building to do, right? Until you get the feel, but then it turned out great. The Polish bookstore / cafe, right? So you come in, you get your stuff, your coffee, whatever, and then you go up and you buy a book. The history of Poland. All right, boom, bought, and then boom, and then you read it, and then you drink your coffee. All right, so there we go. The Polish. We need a name for this place. If I could, what was that name? There was like some crazy name, like explosion or some crap. Like it was crazy, but that I don't know. That would be a good name. I'll have to go back and find it. But that was a crazy name. Yeah, this is it. Goodbye. Thank you. Great day. Great book.